In this video, I'll show you how I paint Raven Guard. Hello everyone and welcome to another Brushstroke painting guide, where this time I'm going to take you through the steps I took for painting this Raven Guard Space Marine. But before I do, I just want to say a massive thank you again to everybody who has helped support my channel by subscribing so far. You guys are amazing. If you haven't subscribed, then please do hit that button now, and don't forget to click the notification bell to be informed of whenever I post another video. Really hope you enjoy this video and find it useful. If you do, then please give it a like and maybe drop a comment below to let me know what you thought. As always, to try and make things as easy as possible for you guys, I've listed all of the paints and materials I've used in the description below, as well as including any links to where to get them, and often at discounted prices, so definitely worth checking that out. One final thing to mention before we start, and that's I'll be painting this model as sub-assemblies. If you'd like to know more about why I do this and the process I take for preparing and priming my models, then please click this link above. Otherwise, let's get started on painting. And the first step is going to be painting in all of the joints in the armour. This is the knees, elbows, waist area, around the neck, and for this I'm going to base coat with some ESHIN grey. The key thing when applying your base paints is to get the paint to apply really smoothly to your model, as this will be the foundation for all of your paint work later. So I've added a touch of water just to help thin it down, and now it flows really smooth. Just work your way around the model, painting in all the joints on all of the parts. You don't need to be particularly neat with this stage. The key thing here really is just to keep your paint really smooth. Next, I'm going to paint in all of the black armour, and for this I wanted a colour that was quite stealthy looking for the covert ops feel of the Raven Guard, and for this I've used Scale 75's flat black. If you're not familiar with Scale 75 paints and not used them before, then they're a little bit different to, say, GW's paints in that they're gel based. They work exactly the same way, and you need to add a bit of water to thin them down so they go on really smoothly. But the thing that I really like about Scale 75's paint range is that they dry super matte. Don't forget, you can check in the description below where I've added links where you can buy Scale 75 paints, and in fact all the paints that I've used for this tutorial. It's well worth you taking your time with this stage and getting your paint on as smoothly as possible, because this will be the final finish for the armour. Also, do take extra care when painting next to the ESHIN grey that you've already done, so that your lines are really nice and neat. As I've thinned this black down with some water, it does make it slightly transparent, so you will need to apply several coats in order to get to a solid black finish. Okay, so with all the armour panels now painted black, I'm going to paint in all of the leather details, and for this I'm going to base coat with RHINOX hide. Just as with all the other base colours, I've added a touch of water to make the paint flow really smoothly onto the model, and I'm going to apply multiple coats so that it's a nice solid colour. For the next step, I'm going to paint in all of the metal details now. So this is any grenades, buckles, chains, aerials, and the main casing for the bolter. And for this, I'm going to use iron hand steel. Try and be as neat as you can now when you're painting next to the details you've already painted in. But if you do make any mistakes and you need to tidy anything back up, then just paint that back in with the colour that you've painted over. I thought it might be quite cool to give the bolter a two-tone metallic look, so I'm going to paint the rest of the casing and the scopes in with steel from DARKSTAR miniatures. This is a really dark black looking metallic and should contrast really well. Just notice that the magazine actually has the bullet casing showing, so I'm going to paint those in with some HASHUT copper. Next, I'm going to base coat in the cool skull and crossbones on the chest with some CELESTRA grey. Now, if you've already painted this over with black, you'll probably need to apply 2 thin coats of the CELESTRA grey to get to a solid colour. Now I'm going to paint in the pauldron trim to indicate this Raven Guard is from the 3rd company, and for that I'm going to use ANTARES red from scale 75. You will find that this is actually quite a thin red, so you will need to apply multiple coats of this colour in order to build up to a solid finish. For the next step, I'm going to apply a shade wash of NULN oil to all of the ESHIN grey, the RHINOX hide and all of the metallics to add some shadow and depth. So I'm just looking to run the wash into all of the creases and recesses to enhance those shadows, and I'm taking particular care not to get it on any of the black armour. But if you do make any mistakes, then just let it dry fully and paint back over with some flat black. With that wash now fully dry, I'm going to apply my first highlight to the black armour, and for this I'm going to use ECLIPSE grey from scale 75. So this step is actually quite subtle and won't be a very strong contrast against the flat black that you've already done, but you need to go around carefully and pick out all of the edges of the black armour just to give that definition. Do take your time with this step and be as neat as possible. If you do make any mistakes along the way, then just neaten up your lines with some flat black. Now's a good time to paint in the eye lenses on the helmet, and I'm going to start off by painting them in fully with some Evil Sunz Scarlet. Of course, this step can be a bit tricky, so if you do make any mistakes, then just neaten up the edges of the eye lenses with some ECLIPSE grey. For the next step, we're going to apply a wash to both the eye lenses now with CARROBURG Crimson. So for this step, you can just flood the whole of the eye lens with the wash, and when it's dry, you'll find that it leaves a really nice dark eyeliner look around the lens. For the next step, we're going to brighten those lenses back up again and create a bit of a gradient, and for this I'm going to use some Evil Sunz Scarlet. What you're looking to do here is apply the paint in strokes from the inside to the outside of the eye. So that's from the nose end to the ear end, and just gently drawing the paint in strokes down so that it builds up a stronger colour at the nose end and then feathers to a gradient at the ear end. Now I'm going to brighten the eye lenses a little bit more with a touch of Fire Dragon Bright. As a final finishing touch, I'm just going to add a small dot of white to the corner of each eye lens, and this is just to be a small glint of light reflecting off the lens. Okay, for the next step, I'm going to apply a second edge highlight to the black armour, and for this I'm going to use Graphite from scale 75. this time you'll find that the colour is a much stronger contrast against the black armour. So this time round I'm just using it on the edges which I feel would catch the most light, or ones where I want to really emphasise those edges. Just like before, really take your time with this step and try and be as neat and clean as possible. If you do make any mistakes though, just go back and touch up with the colour underneath. With those highlights done, it's now time to do the highlighting of all the metallics, and for this I'm going to use Iron Hand Steel. Continuing with the edge highlighting, I'm going to move now on to all the leather details, and for this I'm going to edge with GORTHOR brown. Apologies for the poor camera focus here, but the process of highlighting the leather details is exactly the same as we have been doing with the armour panels. Next, I'm going to add some depth to the skull and crossbones on the chest by deepening the shadows in the eye sockets, and for this I'm going to use some watered down ESHIN grey. And now I'll add some highlights to the skull and crossbones using some ULTHUAN grey. Okay, so now I'm going to paint in the purity seal, starting with the seal itself and base coating that with some KHORNE red. And now base coating the parchment with some USHABTI bone. Next, I'll add some shadow and shade to the purity seal by washing it completely with AGRAX EARTHSHADE. While I'm waiting for that wash to dry, I'm going to apply a wash now to the trim of the pauldron, and for this I'm going to use red tone from Army Painter. All I'm really looking to do is run the shade into the crease between the shoulder pad and the trim, and that's just to darken off that edge and give it more of a shadow. And now just to finish off that trim, I'm going to add an edge highlight of ANTARES red. Another cool detail of Raven Guard is the feathers, and for this I'm going to base coat with INCUBI Darkness. Now I'm going to apply a wash all over the feathers with NULN oil. And then finally I'll add an edge highlight just to pick out some details with some Thunderhawk blue. Going back now to finish off the purity seal, and I'm going to add an edge highlight to the seal with some WAZDAKKA red. And now a highlight to the parchment with some USHABTI bone. So the only detail now really to paint in are all the little lights on the armour, and for this I'm going to base coat first with some ULTHUAN grey. So I've taken the opportunity to put the model together as a single piece, and I've also added the decals. Now I'm going to do a separate video for decals, so do keep an eye out for that. But now just to finish off the lights on the armour, I'm going to apply a glaze over the ULTHUAN grey with 1 part Mortorian green and 1 part Lahmian medium. Then I'll apply a spot highlight of pure white before finishing off with another coat of our glaze mix. And that's it, the Ravensguard is now ready to be based. Now in this particular case I'm going to use him as a diorama, so I'll show a few images of that at the end of this video. I will also be doing another video on how to apply the decals as I mentioned before, and I'll also cover how I painted the scoped lenses in a separate video as well. I really hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you have, then please do give it a like and drop a comment below. Don't forget to make sure that you don't miss any of my future videos, then do hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to click the notification bell to get notifications of when those videos are posted. But in the meantime, thanks very much for watching, and I hope to see you in another video very soon.